daily, what will you do next? Welcome to the Next Steps Show with Peter Vasquez, a starting point for discussion y un poco de dirección. Buenas tardes, señoras y señores. Sí, soy yo, tu conservative Nuyorican, aquí on the WYSL studios like we do every day. It is such an honor to come and have lunch with you. Señor Bob Salaje, ¿cómo estás?
Let's see, estoy bien.
That's the man, you got that locked down. Like
Taught
super
myself
locked down.
2 words.
Hey, check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, say something.
Something.
Something. You, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to recognize that voice, right? Because today's guest is a voice that you've heard already a few times, at least a couple times a week. He's doing things all over the place. So, hey, because today we're going to delve into the legacy of black republicanism here in Rochester, New York, right? A legacy that was built from the ground up and continues to inspire many generations, right? So I'm learning. And to better understand what black republicanism is and the history, I've asked Lavelle Lewis from the Politically Correcting podcast here on WYSL and the president of the Black Republican Club to join me to have this discussion, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Again, this is the second time though. I'm not
You're not
a stranger to the show.
No, although I think the last time I had you on, you were here with Jose.
Yes.
No, this is the first time I've had you on.
Yes, flying solo on this.
What did Jose say he was? He was the beautiful Puerto Rican or something like that. So I had to
says a lot of stuff. I can't keep track of all of the things he said,
especially when he says stuff about himself.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, 346-3000. And remember, we are now on all the social media outlets. All you got to do is type in the Next Step Show. Leave your comments there. If you can't, call in and we'll share them, right? And if we get too many comments, then guess what? We'll share those too. But I'm glad you came on because this, the concept of republicanism or being a Republican or conservative or Democrat, I mean, whatever those are, right? I mean, they seem pretty cut and dry to me. Mm-hmm. There's a philosophy. There's a platform, there's a committee or a party, I guess, associated with those things. So when we start adding words like, black or white or Hispanic, because at one point I ran the Hispanic Latino leadership, the Hispanic LNRC, Jeepers, the Latino National LNRC, the Latino National Republican Committee, or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. But it never sat well with me, and I think it might be something that maybe I just needed to learn more and understood, because in my opinion, if one is Republican, then they're Republican, right? But before we get into that, though, let's talk about Lavelle. I want our listeners to know, and I'm sure if they listen to the Politically Correcting podcast here on WYSL, they probably know some about you. But Lavelle, I want you to go into who you were, like what next steps you took, and really what brought you today to be where you are today, like this champion in our community of black republicanism, and so forth. Because you got to admit, it's a little bit of an oxymoron statement there. Sometimes I think some would say.
Yeah, well, a lot of people now today kind of consider me a unicorn. However, how I got to this point, when I have conversations with a lot of people, especially folks who are anybody within this country that has a family or ancestor history where you are not possibly from here, right? However way your DNA made it over to this country, someone had to come here or someone had to potentially be born here already. So how I got to this point was really through just my own, I will say this, for learning about my great-great-grandfather, I credit that to my great-uncle who challenged me into reading the book that he wrote. And I say my great-great-grandfather, John W. Thompson. He was a very, very busy, notable black leader of this area back there in the late 1800s, early 1900s. In researching my ancestry connection to him, it opened up so many doors as far as my own understanding of politics and understanding who I am and understanding how a lot of my interest in politics or just discussing or even having a voice or speaking out, it definitely comes from my lineage and connection to him. So how I got here again was just through my great uncle challenging me at a family function. He was, I come in, I'm shaking hands with everybody, saying hello, definitely saying what's up to my uncle Paul, Paul Moore, who was he was a very, very busy man himself here in Rochester. He was actually recognized by the city of Rochester for his role in education and being active in that front. So he looks at me, he goes, did you ever read your grandfather, your great-great-grandfather's book? I was like, no, Uncle Paul, but I heard about it. I heard he has one. And he goes, it was a bore. It's like, you should read it. So, when those elders challenge you, you kind of figure out where he's coming from with it. But I know the basis of the book was about the Frederick Douglass Monument and how it came to be, and how it's sitting down on South Avenue today in Highland Bowl. It's been a part of this city for 125 years, right? And on the surface, though, the thought was that, the monument has always been here, but we don't know how it got here. We don't know the sacrifice it took to get a monument erected of the first African-American or black man in United States soil back in 1899. That's 125 years where a former slave has been sitting on a pedestal, which, looking back today and looking at those times when racism itself was real, it was kind of like you could taste it. It was so prevalent. But for my great-great-grandfather to organize the money and raise money to get that erected, it took a lot of sacrifice and it took a lot of learning, and it inspired me to kind of, follow in his footsteps in a sense.
Born and raised in Rochester, I take it?
All the way.
So you've seen Rochester, if you don't mind me asking, and age-wise, are you close to my age?
I'm 44.
You're 40. Okay, so you're a little younger than I am. Probably 6 or 7 years younger than me. So you saw Rochester back in its heyday, back when even in the West Side, Jefferson Avenue, we had a lot of local restaurants, a lot of what in Spanish we call them bodegas. Right, just mom and pops all over Clinton Avenue. Listen, Sunday was defined, how the family values in our communities, because the black community and the Hispanic community is similar in a lot of our values, right?
Absolutely.
Actually, most of our values are very conservative on both sides. And the city's declined since. You don't see a lot of that. What do you attribute that to?
I will go back to the 1960s, 1950s, when the overall population definitely changed. We had a lot of folks from the South who was going through the civil rights era, and they had expectations here in this area, which the foundation that was already set for, from ancestors like mine, they were already established, right? They were already established in the mid 1800s, right? Like, if you look back at Rochester history, one notable man, his name is Oscar Dunbar. I'm sorry, not Oscar Dunn. I forget his name.
It'll come to you.
Yeah, it'll come to me.
During the break.
Yeah, during the break. He was the first black man to settle in Aroniquoit in 1700s, right? Those stories have been pretty much washed away. The sacrifices of men like that who escaped slavery, escaped the South, is different from those who migrated in the late, 1950s, 1960s, and their overall ideology of, race relations. It was completely different from, again, the Frederick Douglass era. People love Frederick Douglass in this area. People love the black Republicans and the leadership that they've shown, because they were self-reliant, right? They relied on themselves. They understood the work of merit and also being able to build their own. We were building our own churches back during that time, right? We were financing our churches during that time. We had a system to where we're going to create this for ourselves, and then we are going to, within just forming our own political groups, being able to come together, we can then influence political races, and that's what they did during that time.
So at one point, the black community in America was really tied to what they call Abraham Lincoln Republicanism, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it seems to have shifted when we started implementing the New Deal. way back in history. So when we get back from break, I want to be able to kind of touch on that a little bit and then get into exactly what Republican or Black Republicanism is.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, aquí in studio, right, we have a Senor Lavelle Lewis, president of the Black Republican Club here in Rochester, New York. No te vayas, ¿por qué? Porque tu conservative New York and La Voz de Libertad, see, we have more to say. We'll be right back right here in WYSL.
In the Rochester and Finger Lakes region, one name stands above all others for real estate appraisal and advice.
Ryan Murphy.
Haven't had the chance to check yet.
This real estate appraisal company can appraise and advise on purchase and sales decisions, mortgage finance feasibility, estate, matrimonial, partnership buyouts, litigation, and more. For any type of property, both residential and commercial. Ryan Murphy was founded almost 40 years ago. All of our highly trained staff members have at least 20 years of experience. All our appraisers are either New York State certified general or residential real estate appraisers.
Ryan Murphy and Associates.
Start here. RYNNEMurphy.com.
For the last couple of years, Joe Robach has been telling you about Flower City Collision in Henrietta, saying that it was started by a veteran along with his son, Zach. Hi, my name is Craig Sadler, and I am that veteran. I want to thank the WYSL listeners for their support over the last couple of years. During those years, not only have I experienced the gratification of providing you the best repairs and customer service, it has also allowed me the opportunity to see my son develop as a young professional. So remember, Flower City Collision for your collision repair needs. And thank you for supporting our locally owned family business.
Youth for Christ Rochester is growing. With the help from the John R. Wegman Foundation, we're adding Saturday mornings back to basketball, while the Saunders Foundation brings back skills and drills for the spring and summer. Our middle school girls program will be starting in a second school this fall. Watch for a new name change for that program. But we need you.
You're welcome.
Make a one-time gift
Just trying to get back in here.
of $25 to sponsor a kid for a year. Go to yfcrochester.org/donate.
Last spot.
Weather's back. You'll want to make sure your vehicle is in tip-top shape, whether it's for the daily commute or that vacation you're planning. For quality, affordable vehicle service, rely on Rock Auto Service, 1132 Westridge Road. Rock Auto has what your car, truck, or SUV needs. Oil change, brake service, suspension, alignments, exhaust, air conditioning, and tires. Check their Google reviews as one of Rochester's best for customer satisfaction. Rock Auto Service, 1132 Westridge, just east of Mount Reed, 434-5010.
Peter Vasquez and Next Step Show on the WYSL station.
Brought to you by Rock Auto Service, 1132 Ridge Road West, Flower City Collision, and the real estate appraisal firm of Ryan Murphy and Associates. Here's Peter.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. There's plenty of room under for more sponsors. Just call the station, 346-3000. We'll always welcome new sponsors, yes. Hey, Lavelle, before we went to break, I had asked you about Abraham Lincoln Republicans, I guess, and Black Republicans, and that seems to have shifted sometime around the New Deal or the implementation of the New Deal, right? And now it appears that the Democrat Party has such a grip on the Black community that many in the Black community just can't see beyond whatever there is. I mean, what was that shift? What am I missing? What caused that? What is that whatever that caused the shift, do you think?
Well, you there's a whole lot of factors that went into that. And a lot of it comes from people that look exactly just like us, right? And there's always been this kind of like power struggle within the African American community, specifically, again, looking at the early 1900s. We don't know that there was a lot of Marxism and communism going on during that time, and there was an overall effort to pull people away from the leadership of Booker T. Washington at that time. Now, Booker T. Washington and my great-great-grandfather were very, very good friends, and they also were colleagues within their overall, vision of organizing the African American community. Booker T. Washington he's come to Rochester plenty of times on behalf of, the invite of my great-great-grandfather. They used to have celebrations for Frederick Douglass's birthday. and they'll have these big, huge events, and Booker T. Washington would be a part of the program. He would come. Ida B. Wells would come. So I would say it's less of Lincoln, but more of Frederick Douglass's leadership and his ideology of republicanism, because he was a Republican, in which within our community, and also to speak to local Republicans, they should embrace that part of history and be honored to kind of represent the name, because again, Frederick Douglass had a lot to do with the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, right? So in order for those amendments to come to fruition, Lincoln leaned on him for his leadership. A lot of folks within the political party at that time leaned on Frederick Douglass' leadership because he was so well respected. So I think the torch was kind of passed from Douglass to Booker T. Washington, and within the early 1900s, establishments like NAACP, they started to go after Booker T. Washington. We spoke about it when we did when I was filling in for Jose, and we talked about that time in history where they felt Booker T. Washington had too much influence within the African American community. And if you look into Booker T. Washington, and the number one statement he's always heralded as saying is, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Well, they attacked that. They attacked that because they felt in the W.E.B. Du Bois era, they felt that the government had to step in and do something. They felt that the government should be protecting the blacks. The government should be able to compensate the blacks. So it was more of that victimized mentality that was created during that time, and it's went into the New Deal, and then when you go into the civil rights era, it got even worse.
Exactly. And let me ask you about that, though, because many people that I talk to today that in reference to Frederick Douglass or even Booker T. Washington and many others, they'll say things like, well, yeah, back then Republicans, they're kind of what the Democrats are today.
That's a lie.
But based on what? I mean, help me, because I don't disagree with you. It is a lie. But, but for those that hear that, why would you, Mr. Leader of the Black Republican Club, a black guy who grew up here in Rochester, you saw the decline? Why is that a lie? What would you tell somebody to convince them of that?
Well, because the only thing that the Black Republicans of that time, and I feel as though I follow the ideology of the Black Republicans of the late 1800s, early 1900s. And they weren't looking for the government to assist them with finances for housing, financing for, education, literally medicate us based off of our current condition. They weren't looking for that. The only thing that they were looking for mostly was the protection of their constitutional rights. If I own property, or if I am here within this part of the country, no matter if I'm in New York State or down in this most southern part of Mississippi, you as my neighbor have no right to either come on my property and put a burning cross on my lawn, come on my property and pull my family out of my house and hang us like we're, just some animals in the wild somewhere. You don't have the right to lynch me. You don't have the right to impose on my inalienable right to move about this country. That was their main focus. And the huge conflict, though, was within the people who were like, well, you guys are not doing anything. You guys are just letting them do this. We need some protection. We need we need social justice now. That fighting spirit came from the Du Bois ideology, which was more of that Marxist communist ideology. He studied Karl Marx. At this time, during the early 1900s, Karl Marx already wrote his book, right? The Russian Revolution had already came and gone. So it was already a part of history, and a lot of blacks admired that type of spirit and felt that was the winning way here in America based off of their oppression, but they forget. And I say this all the time, into understanding the difference between African Americans within politics today, you have to know the difference between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois and their ideologies and how they affected our ability to either navigate within politics, because there's a lot of smart folks on both sides that may have been racist, that knows that socialism is a losing form of government. So if you can sell it to a group of people that out of the blue, and you look at throughout history, the Black Republicans fresh off of Emancipation Proclamation, and go back to Oscar Dunn and not Asa Dunbar, who I mixed the two up. If you look into Oscar Dunn, who was the first black lieutenant governor in the United States, he was appointed in 1868. 1868.
That was in one of the southern states, correct?
Louisiana. And he was on pace to being the governor of Louisiana because he had so much respect and power that he mysteriously died 3 years within his time as lieutenant governor.
I thought I read something of Booker T. Washington that said that particular individual was put there more as a mockery of the freedoms that they were getting. Is that? I'm assuming that's not true.
No, I don't know how he felt about him. I'm just looking at the whole symbolic part of that. Now, I don't know about that quote from him, but again, it shows as far as even within at that time in history, right? We have people who were getting in positions of power as black Republicans, and then as soon as those numbers started to grow, that's when the fear started to kind of settle in within the South, where we're not winning elections. We're losing elections to the before black slave, and then now all of a sudden they're getting into office. They're getting into political positions, and we're losing. Our women are loving them too. Right, like there's so many dynamics as to what was going on. That's where the propaganda came into, where like, oh well, these black men are going to come and rape your women. These black men are going to come and take your jobs. These black men are going to take your land. That form of propaganda has been used over and over and over again,
and it still is.
Still is.
That's been. Probably, okay, you don't have people, elected officials going out there and saying things like that, but they are surely implying it, especially with things like the criminal justice reform that we have. I'm sorry, but every time you turn on the television this day, it's predominantly what they're showing, predominantly black and brown people killing each other, killing others. I mean, and I'm not saying that look, it seems like they're pushing that, and this whole concept of because I'm black or brown that I need government help. Get the heck out of here, man. Really? Are you kidding me? But what gets me the most, Lavelle, is that it's people like Hocus Pocus in the White House. It's people like, the county clerk and the county executive.
People like Demond Meeks.
People like Demond Meeks, right? So I said one day, in the mirror, I'm just saying, listen, someone said, you think it's some big conspiracy with your tinfoil hat? I said, no, listen, I believe that there is a real movement in this country, right, to turn us to what we aren't, right, to eliminate some of the freedoms we have under the Constitution. I think people at the lower level, like the Mansmeeks and like Cooney the Hud and all those others that we mentioned, I think they just see an opportunity, and they think that for some reason, if they play along, that they won't be caught up later on when the poop hits the fan. Yeah, that's what I think.
It's very profitable as well. To be a social justice fighter, there's not a lot of money within that. So there's a lot of players on the other end, which they've always been. And going back to the show that we had a couple months ago, the NAACP was financed by one of the Goldman Sachs brothers, right? So the NAACP, within its formation, was 95% white led, okay? And I say this: there's two types of America. There's the socialist America that we got in 1930, which made it easier for the United States government to sell a socialist government to black people, which they successfully did. And then there was the the Black Wall Street time or era of the black community, where they were more aligned with Booker T. Washington, freedom, United States Constitution, Bill of Rights. That type of black America is literally dying as we speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Lavelle Lewis, president of the Black Republican Club here in Rochester. And a quick shout out to Fred Selber. Thank you for your shout out on social media. Hey, we'll be right back after a few minutes right here on WYSL junto Conservative New Rican. And mira, llámanos at 346-3000. We'll be right back.
I want my
straight. CG went away. What can I do? Welcome, Batavia. WYSL. Proud to be your local talk station for great conservative all-American programming.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. Staying warm and muggy in the low 70s out there on Tuesday. Another hot, hazy, humid day with an isolated thunderstorm in the afternoon. Temperatures in the low to mid 90s. The heat index nearer just over 100. And we'll do it again on Wednesday. Another very hot, humid day. Slight chance of afternoon thunder. Highs well up into the 90s. I'm Rich Cornelia, WYSL.
The wait is over. See the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue at Ralph Honda. Exciting performance with sustainability. The Prologue makes your drive eco-responsible and effortless. Drive one today at Ralph Honda, West Ridge Road, and online at Ralph Honda.
Red Wings Radio.
The Insider Report with Josh Wetzel, brought to you by Monroe County Republicans. Be sure to register and vote and bring friends and family with you to the polls.
The Red Wings won their fourth in a row to wrap up their series against Scranton with an 8-1 win Sunday at Innovative Field. Harold Ramirez and Brady Lindsley each had 2 RBI singles for the Wings, and Jackson Rutledge picked up his 3rd win of the season, working 7 innings, allowing just 1 run on only 2 hits. The Wings, with the win, are now 36-31 in the season, matching their high-water mark of 5 games over 500. They were shut out Tuesday and Wednesday to begin the series, but then won 4 straight to take the series over Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Wings drew 11,000 fans on Father's Day, their 3rd straight game of more than 10,000 folks at Innovative Field. Wings are off on Monday. They start a series in Syracuse on Tuesday night. This is Josh Wetzel for the WYSL station.
With critical races on the ballot this year, we have an opportunity to send a message that we want change. Here are 3 things that you can do today to ensure that we are set up for success this fall. Make sure you are registered to vote at your current address. Get out and support our local candidates, and subscribe on our website to receive the latest news this election season. Visit MonroeGOP.com/vote to learn more. Paid for by the Monroe County Republican Committee.
Joe Roback ha estado hablando de Flower City Collision en Henrietta, fundado por un veterano y su hijo Zach. Greg Sedgwick es ese veterano. No solo ha brindado las mejores preparaciones y servicio al cliente, sino Greg ha visto a su hijo crecer como profesional. Recuerda, Flower City Collision para tus preparaciones de colisión. Visítalos en flowercitycollision.com.
Yes, it's showtime. Air Showtime, that is. The greatest show on turf is right around the corner at the National Warplane Museum in Geneseo, New York. See the famous F-22 Raptor, 5 Canadian Harvards, 4 P-51 Mustangs, 2 C-47s, 2 B-25s, breathtaking aerobatic planes and stunts, P-40 Spitfire, Hurricane, and more. Saturday, Sunday, July 13th and 14th. Tickets available online. National Warplane Museum.com.
Cobblestone Capital Advisors, LLC, offers comprehensive financial management services throughout Western New York and nationwide. Cobblestone's an active supporter of numerous local organizations, including Mary Cariola Children's Center, Wilmot Cancer Center, Holy Childhood, Rochester Child First Network, and Golisano Children's Hospital. Since 1986, Cobblestone Capital Advisors has been building strong foundations for both its clients and its community. Cobblestone Capital Advisors, focused on one goal, yours.
Your stuff deserves a better home. That's why you need a store with confidence at Hidden Treasures Self-Storage in Farmington. Units are safe and secure in a variety of sizes. At Hidden Treasures, there are no locks, no keys, no combinations. Bluetooth locks are controlled by your cell phone. Get 50% off your first month. Convenient to everywhere on Loomis Road in Farmington. Close to the Thruway. Get peace of mind when you stow your stuff at Hidden Treasures Self-Storage.
Baseball, hot dogs, and the American flag. They're all part of the rich fabric that makes our country great. Show your American spirit by purchasing your flag from the Stars and Stripes Flag Store today. When you do, you are supporting critically needed services for local veterans at the Veterans Outreach Center. Let's show our veterans that we care by placing our nation's symbol on the porch of every house in our community. The Stars and Stripes Flag Store, 783 South Avenue.
Shopping online for a new car can be overwhelming. At Ralph Honda, we make it easy. With finance and lease options on every 2020.
Here we have Carmen.
Plenty of inventory to choose from. It's a great time to drive a new Honda. Come see for yourself. Ralph Honda on Westridge Road.
Peter Vasquez and Next Step Show on the WYSL stations.
Oh, baby, I love your way. Every day, yeah.
Welcome back to the Next Step Show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hanging out with us. Remember, we are on all the social media, so take us with you. You don't have to turn us off when you leave the car. En studio tenemos al señor Lavelle Lewis, the president of the Black Republican Club here in Rochester, New York. I want to ask you a couple questions in regards to something that you had said on your show, but I think we have a call.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you heard that. Carmen is on the line. Hey, Carmen.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Good. Mr. Lewis, very excited to hear about the Black Republican Club. I think it's probably long overdue that, the Republican Party reaches out to its constituency, which we haven't done an effective job with for quite some time. So I'm glad that somebody is taking a leadership role to do that. I've got a twofold question for you. First, clearly there has been for many, many years a false narrative that has been preached to your constituency. And just wondering what activities your group undertakes or plans to undertake to re-educate folks about that false narrative and how it is not helping them and has not helped them. And that kind of starts, here locally, from our congressional district down to, local government, the county executive's office, the mayor's office, the county clerk's office. And the second part of my question is what is your group doing or plan to do to get your constituency involved with the local races this year for people that actually are going to make a difference in local government?
Wow. Well, thank you for the question, and thank you for acknowledging the importance of our club. The first part, to answer the first part, is education is definitely the biggest thing that we have to do, and by letting African Americans know that within the Republican Party, the ideology is the most important thing, right? Small government, low taxes, stay out of my business, which within African American history, why would you want the government involved in anything that has to do with your household, right? Going back to the worst president in history, Lyndon B. Johnson, the war on poverty absolutely did nothing for the African American people, where it ended up, taking fathers out of the household and throwing them in prison. So our job is to go into specific areas that Black folks congregate, to strike up these conversations, let them know, like, listen, Black Republicans have always been a part of the party, and people like my great-great-grandfather, who here locally was able to create a name for Republicans, Black Republicans in the country, is important for them to know. This club that we have is nothing, we're not reinventing the wheel. John W. Thompson, who, again, my great-great-grandfather, was the president of the Western New York Colored Republican Club, where they were in charge of organizing 29 counties here in this area, and were responsible for getting 60,000 Black men registered as voters, and a very, very important piece to the Republican candidates within the country. So to answer your second question, as far as what we plan to do as far as helping out current candidates, we just started. We just got up running back in February when we went online. So we're kind of taking this year off as far as supporting candidates. However, we do show ways to support and represent specific candidates that we have personal relationships with, to where we can be an asset to them currently. But within the future, our goal is to increase our membership. And if there's anybody out there who are listening to the show who may be of African American descent, brown, whatever ethnic background you have, if you are interested in the Black Republican Club, look us up on Facebook. Just type in the Black Republican Club of Rochester. You will find us, and we are all about just, first of all, educating the historical part of Black Republicans, restoring the ideology of small government within the African American community. The government is not your friend. Just like Ronald Reagan said, the worst thing or the last thing you want any government to say is, I'm the government and I'm here to help. And it's not, we've received zero benefits from the government since the 1930s up until now.
I was one of those government people that would knock on the door and say, "Hi, I'm with the IRS and I'm here to help."
Yeah.
The IRS.
Beautiful. But you know what, though? I figured I've got two options. I can either keep saying that, or I can just kind of leave the whole, because, no, really, we were supposed to show our badge and say, a version of that. Carmen, I appreciate the call. And you know what? You guys are doing it good, because, like you mentioned, John W. Thompson, which is your great
yes
grandfather. The groups that he represented, according to what I read, right, that you had put out, was the Colored Republican League of New York and the National Afro-American League.
Yeah, National African American Council, which that was the first attempt of the NAACP, and if you read his book, he speaks about the formation of that. So the name of the book, it's The Authentic History of the Frederick Douglass Monument, and I consider it probably one of the first ever documentaries that was kind of created. His peers urged him to kind of write and document what it took to get that monument started. At the end of the book, not to kind of spoiler alert of everything, he put in there this letter that Ida B. Wells wrote to him and spoke about the need of forming that African American Council and how important it was. And one of his response to it, which was more, I don't know if she was excited about the response, is like, yeah, I'm all in. However, the last time we tried this, the folks within our club didn't pay their dues. The first folks within our club did not carry out their responsibilities for making sure financially as a club we can kind of function and sustain. And it's ironic that the reason why that African American Council failed was for finance reasons, and then not too long after, 1903 or 1902, the NAACP was formed, and Ida B. Wells jumped on board, W.B. Du Bois jumped on board, and they were literally one of the few minorities of that organization, and the Sachs brothers pretty much financed the NAACP.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, we can talk for hours and hours and hours and hours. Just real quick, and I don't want to belabor this or spend more than a couple seconds if that's okay, but I do want to know, why does it appear to many of us, right? If you didn't know anything about America or the Black community or any of these other civil rights things going on, and let's say you're an alien looking down, you'd swear that, and I think on your show, you guys actually talked about this, and I heard you guys talk about this, which is kind of what sparked my curiosity. Mm-hmm. There seems to have been a narrative that's been created where Black America is now synonymous with LGBT America. How did that happen? And is there a correlation? I mean, is that something that's huge now in the Black community?
It is. I think that is one of the things that our ancestors could be turning in their grave. The black race has been used so many times for so many different political agendas, and it's the easiest Trojan horse to kind of use to debilitate everyone's thought process or their consciousness of fighting back against the government, right? And When we come back, I'll get more into it.
All right, sounds good, ladies and gentlemen. That's Laval Lewis. Sí, soy yo, Peter Vasquez, the conservative New Yorker, y por seguro tenemos la voz de libertad. Regresamos en unos momentos aquí mismito en WYSL.
Cause I know it from the start. Baby, when you broke my heart, that I had to call my name. I will show you that I'm winning.
In the Rochester and Finger Lakes region, one name stands above all others for real estate appraisal and advice.
Ryan Murphy and Associates.
This full-service real estate appraisal company can appraise and advise on purchase and sales decisions, mortgage finance feasibility, estate, matrimonial, partnership buyouts, litigation, and more. For any type of property, both residential and commercial. Ryan Murphy was founded almost 40 years ago. All of our highly trained staff members have at least 20 years of experience. All our appraisers are either New York State certified, general, or residential real estate appraisers.
Ryan Murphy and Associates.
Start here. RYNNEMurphy.com.
Hi, my name is Greg Sadwick, and along with my son Zach, we are the owners of Flower City Collision. We've been advertisers on WYSL, the voice of liberty, for the last couple of years. So I want to thank the listeners of WYSL for their patronage, which has allowed us to grow and reinvest in the latest technologies to ensure that your vehicles are repaired to the most current standards, whether conventional or EV. If you are in a collision, reach out to Zach at Flower City Collision in Henrietta, and he'll work with your national insurance company on your local behalf to ensure that your repair gets done right.
Baseball, hot dogs, and the American flag. They're all part of the rich fabric that makes our country great. Show your American spirit by purchasing your flag from the Stars and Stripes flag store today. When you do, you are supporting critically needed services for local veterans at the Veterans Outreach Center. Let's show our veterans that we care by placing our nation's symbol on the porch of every house in our community. The Stars and Stripes flag store, 783 South Avenue.
Now that the good weather's back, you'll want to make sure you're
spot.
tip-top shape, whether it's for the daily commute or that vacation you're planning. For quality, affordable vehicle service, rely on Rock Auto Service, 1132 Westridge Road. Rock Auto has what your car, truck, or SUV needs. Oil change, brake service, suspension, alignments, exhaust, air conditioning, and tires. Check their Google reviews as one of Rochester's best for customer satisfaction. Rock Auto Service, 1132 Westridge, just east of Mount Read, 434-5010.
Next Steps with Peter Vasquez on the WYSL stations.
And every Next Steps is brought to you by Flower City Collision, the real estate appraisal firm of Ryan Murphy and Associates, residential, commercial, the Finger Lakes, Rochester, Western New York, and Rock Auto Service. Here's Peter again.
Sí, soy yo, tu conservative New Yorker. Señoras y señores, sí, el señor Laval Lewis. Laval, it kills me that we spend a lot of time, especially in the city, talking about a lot of racial things, right? And there's a lot of things like, first black judge or first Hispanic this, but I'm running, right? And I'm running to be, your county clerk. And it happens that if I elected, right, I'll be the first Hispanic county clerk in Monroe County. Do you know how many media people have picked that up and just as a point?
Well, if you were a Democrat, that would probably be the main thing.
That's my point.
Leading the whole conversation.
But let's, and I say that because I want to lead into a clip that I played before by Malcolm X that talks about the trickery of the left and why. Bob, if you don't mind.
The game of power politics here in America. The Negro, namely the race problem, integration, civil rights issue, are all nothing but tools used by the whites who call themselves liberals against another group of whites who call themselves conservatives, either to get into power or to retain power. Among whites here in America, the political teams are no longer divided into Democrats and Republicans. The whites who are now struggling for control of the American political throne are divided into liberal and conservative camps. The white liberals from both parties cross party lines to work together toward the same goal. And white conservatives from both parties do likewise. The white liberal differs from the white conservative only in one way. The liberal is more deceitful, more hypocritical than the conservative. Both want power, but the white liberal is the one who has perfected the art of posing as the Negro's friend and benefactor. And by winning the friendship and support of the Negro, the white liberal is able to use the Negro as a pawn or a weapon in this political football game that is constantly raging between the white liberals and the white conservatives. The American Negro is nothing but a political football, and the white liberals control this ball through tricks or tokenism, false promises of integration and civil rights. In this game of deceiving and using the American Negro, the white liberals have complete cooperation of the Negro civil rights leaders, who sell our people out for a few crumbs of token recognition, token gains, token progress.
See, and that's what I mean. They do that all the time. So they'll promote people like Cooney the Hut, right? The senator that is just very bad for the black and brown communities.
No way here is he black or even have any type of understanding of black people.
They don't, but it's just trickery. But you know what really gets me, though, is that, you know, this whole, and you've heard me talk about, because I believe in words like inclusivity and equality. And I even believe a little bit in the whole equity, you know, depending on how we apply it.
Based off of merit. Based off
of
do.
merit,
Yes.
right. But right now they keep touting that, and then this is what gets me, though. It is the white liberal. Because show me where in the upper echelon of New York State is there anybody of color that holds any prominent position that is able to make a real change for you and I? And answer me this too, if it's not political trickery, why is it that this party has been under one-party control and the most basic need that we have, especially in black and brown America, which is housing, right? Tell me, why is it that they play games and just instead of just signing the bill? Because there ain't nothing Pamela Helming or anybody there, any of the Republican legislators can do.
I call a lot of the black political leaders of the left the real blackface, because they put them in position because they know that they're going to use the one thing that black people reacts to well, not even just black people, just people in general. They react to fear, right? So if they keep using the terms of slavery, injustice, you know, like the thought of being wronged and that there's some other element that's preventing you from being successful, it makes it easier for them to get votes, because then they use the media, they use crime, use all these different things to their advantage. And just goes back to what the famous Malcolm X said, that speech was called the Ballot or Bullet. If you want to listen to its entirety, listen to it, because he was spot on with how they use us as political football to pretty much push this agenda.
I'm actually thinking about breaking down that entire speech and making a whole show about it. Not that an hour would do it justice, but I'm thinking about spreading it out amongst a couple of days to have the discussion. But we're running out of time. I need you to, if you may, for our listeners, define black republicanism, because this is the thing. I mean, and this is where we differ. I believe that we're Republicans. I believe in Americans, right? Once you start putting other labels to it, I kind of cringe. So help us understand what that means.
Well, I would say this, and it goes back to what I said earlier, as far as using people who were there before as, the benchmark of black conservative, or just being conservative all in general. It is unique as far as being black and then being Republican, but I think it's important because within just anybody, just like what Frank Douglas said, without struggle comes no progress. Okay, so using that, anybody that's Republican, we all believe that your own work, hard work, and merit, you should be respected and also compensated for that, which aligns with the basic fundamental values of being a overall Republican, right? Capitalism, okay? If you have a service or something that you create and put out there in the market, you should be compensated for that service. Within just the history of slaves were always, there was a lot of slaves who were industrialized, that were out there selling things or selling their work, selling their labor, whether it be making baskets, brooms, bags, etc. Those things, that is all aligns within the fundamental values of being a Republican. So even though, yes, we have that identity tied to it, look at the challenges, though, right? Organizing is key. So when you have a group or some sort of outside entity that is literally manipulating your people, and you don't have a means or a way to kind of help educate and organize and get them together, let them know, like, hey, listen, yes, there's newspapers going out that's branding us as the problems of this community. This propaganda is being supported and propagated by a higher element, somebody that does not want us to be in a position of power. We are the minority of this country. We only represent maybe 12 to 15% of the voting demographic of this country. And if you have a group that you can use as a political football, just like Malcolm X said, it makes it easier for nefarious people to get into power and kind of suppress information, suppress the ability to organize, suppress the ability to get the right candidates into these races, get the right candidates to be voted for. That's why, as far as me, the president of the Black Republican Club, my job, my goal is to spread that knowledge and information and let white Republicans know your history. They don't want you to know, they don't want people to know the real history of Republicans in this country, because it is very, very, very entwined with Black history itself. The Civil War had a lot to do with Black people. Our whole entire status as a country was intertwined with slavery within this country. And the first party that Blacks aligned themselves to was the Republican Party. So we as the Black Republican Club, we recognize that challenge, and we are definitely here to help it out. So anybody that wants to help support, wants to come into our future, events that we throw, look us up on Facebook. The more the merrier. This is a unified event. We need white Republicans, just like Black Republicans, to step out in the shadows and also be proud to be a conservative, period.
One last question, and if you can answer in like 10 seconds.
I'll try.
Is there a difference between a white Republican and a Black Republican? Or you know what, let's throw a Hispanic Republican in there too. Is there a difference between them?
No, because we all believe in the same thing. We don't want the government in our business. We don't want to be overtaxed. We don't want the red tape. We don't want the bureaucracy to stop us from being a citizen of the United States of America. We are united. We're not out here just to be, okay, yeah, we're only looking out for ourselves. We're looking out for the country. We are patriots. We love this country. We love the thought of freedom or being free. We should all love that.
The country that Black Americans fought for. As a matter of fact, we can look at numbers of abortion and see that the population in Black America would be over 30% right now, not the 12%.
That's a whole other show you start.
I know, but listen.
Are you trying to leave breadcrumbs for the next time I come on the show, Peter?
I'm trying to. But this one, stick to 10 seconds if you can, because we are running out of time. I need next steps for our listeners coming from the president of the Black American Club, or the Black Republican Club here in Rochester. What's your next steps advice?
Next steps advice, again, do not be afraid to be who you are. Whether you know anything about, our history as far as Black Republicans or not, as a white Republican or anybody that is conservative in the other races, it is okay. It is okay to have your beliefs and your thoughts. Just understand that we are in the same country.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Lavelle Lewis, right? Co-host of Politically Correcting Podcast. Mira, be a leader, be a leader, be a leader, and say this: leadership is the beacon that guides me, for it's through selfless service that I illuminate the way for others to find their own greatness. Mira, nunca te olvides, aquí in the Next Step Show, sí, your conservative New York, WYSL, tu voz de libertad, siempre te amamos.
Con alma de hombre, quiero amarte para siempre, pero tú no me respondes, soy cara de niño.